We're here at American Top Team in South Florida, Coconut Creek. Bellator 283 big fight Friday, July 22nd on Showtime from the Emerald Queen Casino in Tacoma, Washington. American Top Team represented strong. Dalton Hercules Rosta, undefeated at 6-0. He's ranked number 8 in the middleweights. He'll take on number 7 middleweight Romero Bad News Cotton, 6-0 as well, undefeated. Big fight coming up for you. Just how's it been going with the training, preparing for this fight?
Everything's been going great. Conditioning's coming along. Everything sharpening up all my tools. Game plan's great. We've been implementing it well in sparring and grappling, everything. So I got great sparring partners here, great coaches. Great atmosphere, great gym, great schedule. It's very organized. So everything's coming together great.
When you say talk about some of the coaches and the sparring partners, who has primarily been getting you ready for this fight?
So I was sparring with Austin Vanderford a little bit, and recently I've been sparring with Johnny Eblin. He just got back from his fight.
New champion.
Yes, sir. There was a little hiatus in between the two of them where I was sparring with Josh Silvera, PFL contender.
Yep.
Just got his spot in the playoffs as an alternate. Yep. So we're all doing great. Austin has a fight coming up. Johnny just won the belt. I have a fight coming up. Josh is in the PFL playoffs now. So, we got a deep 185-pound, 205-pound division here. All great wrestlers, all great strikers. Everything's been great. So, I've been sparring with them. I've been grappling with them, drilling with them, everything. I come from a wrestling background myself. So, this is nothing new to me. I plan on implementing my own wrestling, defensive and offensive. Obviously implementing and imposing my striking on my opponent where I feel like I have a huge advantage. And my opponent or my training partners have prepared me well for what we believe Romero's gonna try to implement on me, which we don't think will be very successful in the first place. So
it's interesting when you're getting ready for a fight. Every fight could take a new turn, be a different fight. How much preparation for you does it go as far as watching your opponent and what that opponent's doing? Because you might come at something different, he might come at you something different. So how much preparation is there when you're going into a fight against an opponent, no matter who that opponent is?
Usually opponents evolve each fight. So, you watch their film and, you obviously, when you're getting ready for them, you're sparring with them, you take what's on their film and use it in your training. However, like you said, people can evolve, they can implement new techniques, new tools. So obviously you have to be ready for everything. There's plenty of things that we think he might, based off of his weaknesses and, our strengths, some stuff that he might try to take advantage of in the fight, even though we haven't seen him do it in the past. I'm a much larger step up in competition than he's fought so far. So obviously we've been working on that. We've been, trying to implement it into the game plan as well. We don't think it's going to happen, but it's just like a what if, what if this happens, then what are we going to do? But as for, him evolving, we like I said, we don't think he is on that level like other fighters where they evolve each fight. You watch all 5 of his fights, or all 6 of his fights, he's made small improvements over the course from 1 to 6, but you can't tell the difference in between each fight. Small steps where it's like this dude's hasn't evolved, he hasn't progressed. In some areas it seems like he regressed a little bit. So, we're going to take advantage of his weaknesses. We're going to apply my strengths, and I believe my weaknesses are better than his strengths as well. So, should be a great night and a great fight.
Not going into detail of game plans, but on the flip side of that, how have you grown from that first fight to now coming up on your 7th professional fight?
I think it goes without saying. If you watch my first fight and you watch now, completely different fighter. I'm more patient now. I'm sharper, more composed. Obviously, in my past 3 fights, I haven't gotten finishes like I would have wanted. I saw opportunities for them. Looking back on the tapes, but I didn't take advantage of the opportunities. I have my reasons, but I'm not here to make excuses. So, looking to improve upon those in the future. However, even though I didn't get the finishes, if you look at the tape, you look at me putting the combinations together, me pulling out new tools and more weapons in my arsenal, me mixing things up better, me striking with people that are supposed to be better strikers than me outstriking them. Tony Johnson, supposed to be 10-1 professional boxer, 9-1 overall in MMA. You know, analysts like Josh Thompson saying he was going to knock me out if I chose to strike with him, and I outstruck him. I shut him out on all the scorecards. Same thing with Dwayne Johnson, southpaw striker. Everybody thought the same thing, you know, outstruck him. And then I turned him into a wrestler at the end of the fight. He was shooting on me. Ty Gorder, another very seasoned striker. In my opinion, I think he was the most dangerous. He's the most versatile. Even though he came in my fourth fight, I think he was the most dangerous overall out of everybody, and I passed that with flying colors as well. But I mean, even though he was my fourth fight, and my fifth fight, and my sixth fight, you still see me do things that I didn't do in my fourth fight, and progress and continue to mix things up and become more versatile. So in this fight coming up, I think you're going to see the same thing. I'm pulling new tools out of my toolbox and more weapons out of my arsenal. And you know, he might think he knows what's coming. I watched some interviews where he said I'm a point fighter. I'm not. You know, I finished all my amateur fights, finished my first 3 professional fights. My last 3 fights, you know, it was more so me being patient and composed and missed opportunities. But you know, if he thinks I'm a point fighter, he has something coming for him on July 22nd.
And it's going to be a huge event. Showtime is going to be showing it, as well as Bellator YouTube and Showtime YouTube. For you, how do you rank this fight coming up? Do you rank it as your biggest fight to date?
I think it's, on paper, the biggest fight, 6-0 versus 6-0, number 7 versus number 8. You know, he's a 3-time NCAA champ wrestler, which, by the way, means nothing in MMA. I truly believe that on a wrestling mat, I'm that level of wrestler. I just didn't, you know, finish my career wrestling in college because of injuries, transferred to play football. But, you know, MMA is a whole different animal. You know, it's timing, mixing up your strikes with your takedown. There's the cage stopping you. There's no circle, you know, where you're going out of bounds. It's completely different rule set. You can lock your hands. You can't lock your hands in wrestling. You know, I truly think that I beat him everywhere. Anywhere this fight goes, I'll beat him everywhere. And on paper, he's my toughest fight. But like I said, I've had tougher fights. Tony Johnson, you know, better striker. Ty Gorder, a lot more dangerous, better striker. You know, overall better mixed martial artist. I think this guy is a one-trick pony, and I'm going to shut it down.
And taking advantage of that, and also not to look too far ahead, a victory in this fight, where do you think that might get you moving forward, or are you not looking that far?
No, I'm always looking for towards the future, you know. I hate the saying, don't look past your opponent, you know. It's not that I'm looking past them. You know, I'm focused on this fight fully, but, you know, you gotta be looking towards the future. If you're not looking, what's your goal? You know what I mean? Is your goal to be world champion? If you don't have that in the back of your head, I mean, what are you doing this for? You know, this is just a stepping stone. This is an obstacle in the way that I have to remove. And, you know, after this, hopefully a top 5 fight, and I was supposed to fight John Salter. He pulled out because he got injured. He was ranked number 3. Now I'm fighting Romero Cotton, so hopefully after this, John Salter, and then keep moving up from there.
What has it been like for you just getting into MMA, and as you were getting older, from your high school days to your college days, was this the plan to give MMA a shot, an opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, me and my dad, you know, were big fight fans growing up, boxing, you know, wrestling, everything. He had put me in wrestling from a young age. I was in and out of it. He put me in jiu-jitsu. I was in and out of it from the age of 12, 13. I was in boxing from the age of 11 on and off, you know. I was dabbling in everything, you know, getting a little bit and a little bit of everything. And back then, I always thought to myself, like, watching the UFC fights, I wanted to be a UFC fighter. But you know, it was when I was doing those things, it was out of pure enjoyment. It wasn't for the, you know, for the reason of becoming a UFC fighter and trying to put it all together, because I was doing everything separately. I got back into wrestling and football whenever I got in high school, was focused so much on those. So I got away from the jiu-jitsu and the boxing, went to college to wrestle, then transferred, played football at Youngstown State. Once I got injured there, that's when my MMA journey started over again at about the age of 20, 21 or so. And I started doing everything together. So, I mean, 5 years later, I mean, here I am in Bellator, ranked in the top 10. And, you know, I'm blessed. And, you know, I couldn't ask to be in a better position than I am.
How did you get to American Top Team?
So one of my teammates back home, Cody Law, came down here to help with George Masvidal, and he was talking about how great it was, and I visited over at Sanford a few years prior. Wasn't a huge fan of it because there was no organization. Not to talk crap on anybody, great coaches and everything over there.
Yeah, they do. They have some great fighters there too, and all I understand.
When I was there, it was like it wasn't
just didn't fit for you.
Yeah, it wasn't perfect for me. It wasn't very organized, and there was a lot of people constantly out of the gym. People weren't. I don't know how it is now, but back then, it didn't seem like a lot of the fighters were very dedicated. They weren't showing up to the gym. I feel like I kind of wasted like 10 days. It was a good experience, but I wanted to give American Top Team a try. It's one of the most prestigious gyms in the world. And well, after Cody talking it up so much, I started talking to people that could possibly get me in here. One of my sponsors, Simon Arias from Arias Agencies, knew a couple people, knew former partner, Dan's former partner in this, and reached out to him. And he reached out to one of the fighters here who was like a manager or the front desk guy, and they sent him tape, they sent him my record and everything, and they said, well, there's a lot of guys that think they're at this level and they come in here and they get beat up and it's not a fit for everybody, so you can come down here and try it out. Came down, tried it out, essentially made the team.
You fit.
Yeah, I fit perfectly, and here I am now, and I'm grateful for the opportunity, and like I said, I couldn't be in a better position.
You mentioned Cody Law. He's been doing very well. I know he had a tough loss his last fight, but he's been doing very well. And some of the ones you mentioned as well, with Johnny becoming the champion in all division at Bellator. Roman Faraldo, one of your teammates here, is going to also fight on the Bellator 283 card and all. What is it like when you're not fighting and just whether Johnny's fighting or Cody's fighting and watching your teammates and all? What does that mean to you team-wise for American Top Team? Because I know this is an individual sport, but it just seems like when you're an American Top Team, it is like a team.
Yeah, I'm super invested in all of them. So, when my teammates and my friends are fighting, I can't miss the fight. Where there's other fight cards where it might not be as big names on the card, where like I'm always trying to watch them. But if I have something going on or I have something important I have to do, if I have to train or whatever, I'll be like whatever, But for example, that fight card, Cody was the first one to fight, and I had boxing that night with Gabriel. As soon as I got done with my pads, we turned it on. It was like halfway into the first round into Cody's fight, and he was like the third or fourth fight on the card. So we just made it to watch that fight. But like I said, I'm super invested in like all of my teammates and friends' fight careers. So like when they're fighting, I'm watching every single second. I'm hoping for the best, wishing them luck, and it's like kind of feel like almost the same feeling. I don't feel like it's me fighting, but it's the same feeling I get when I'm about to fight, that I have for them whenever they fight.
Y'all are training together, sparring with each other and all. It really is like that. You mentioned Josh with PFL, now getting into the playoffs, which is very cool. His first professional debut season for MMA. And looking at some of the fighters in Bellator, wow, there's a who's who list of American Top Team fighters, including yourself, on that Bellator roster. What do you think of the overall Bellator roster?
I think it's growing, and there's obviously great talent, especially at middleweight. It's just, I think where they don't get credit is the depth, where like everybody in the top 10 is good. Everybody in the top 10 can compete in the top 10 in the UFC, in the PFL, everything, and we all train together. I train with UFC fighters, I train with PFL fighters, so I know, but you have the fans that are a little, I don't want to say uneducated, but they're unaware of like what goes on at the gym. And this is just training. Fighting's different, but they think it's the A league and the B league. It's not. You know what I mean? If they came in here and watched some of these sparring matches and some of this training, they'd be like, wow, they'd be surprised. And with Bellator, it's no different. We can compete with anybody in the world, and in my division specifically, it's not the deepest as far as like the most fighters in it, but our top 10, the talent's there. You know what I mean? You got Johnny at champ, 12-0. I'm 6-0, about to be 7-0 this week coming up. Austin is 11-1. He just had his title shot recently. He has a fight coming up as well. You got Josh, who's fighting at light heavyweight, but he's truly a 185-pounder at PFL. He's 8-0. And then on top of that, we got at the weight class below us, Yaroslav hasn't been here because of the war, but 27-0, champ in 170. You got Roman Feraldo, 7-0, about to be 8-0. You have Sabah Hamasi. You know,
Fought on the last Bellator card,
Yeah,
or at least
yeah.
the Bellator card that Cody was on, and Johnny won the title, and he got to win.
We're so deep at these two weight classes, you know what I mean? And the training is phenomenal. I mean, even at other high-level gyms like Sanford and AKA and, you know, Jackson Wink, you have good fighters, but they're usually spaced out across each weight class. You don't have this, you know,
One division, one weight area.
or 2 or 3 weight areas where everybody's training with each other, where it's like so deep.
Shoe face.
You know what I mean? Yeah, at 205. Omari at 205, who's fighting Josh. You know, it's super deep, and we have the best 85, 70, and 205 pounders in the world, all training together. You know, depth-wise, and you know, I think it shows on fight night.
With your amateur wrestling background, what do you think of the Mako Dungeon? The wrestling dungeon.
Right over here?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. We get to train in there every so
That's what I call it. I call it the Mako Dungeon.
Yeah, we get to train in there so often. On Mako Mondays, we train obviously in the big mats with so many people here. Just like any other gym, I'm sure as the week goes on, people start to trickle out and stuff. So, like Wednesday mornings when Mako has a class Wednesday morning too, it's just an hour long, you know, mostly drilling, a little bit of live at the end. They usually do it in this Mako room over here, but last Wednesday we did it, out on the big mats because there was a lot of people this time. And then Artem Levin, you know, great kickboxer, one of the best to ever live. You know, he's one of our coaches here. He does a lot of stuff in there, so you know, it brings you back for sure. And but I mean, as you can see, we got this room, we got the Mako wrestling room, we got the cage in the other room, we got the cage out there, we got all these big mat areas. This facility is phenomenal.
And Dalton, it's interesting because earlier you talked about goals, and it's not like you're looking past any fight, but be a champion. When you were wrestling, amateur wrestling, was the goal Olympics? Even back then, was that your goal at that time, or no, that was not your goal at that time?
No, I wanted to be a state champ, and I wanted to be NCAA champ. I wasn't really much of like a freestyle wrestler. I didn't care for it, and it was always in the back of my head that like I was going to use my wrestling for something, MMA, you know what I mean? And like I said, when I was super young, it wasn't necessarily the plan, but as I got older, you know, it was always in the back of my head. So I got injured my junior and senior year in high school, right before postseasons, was undefeated both years before I got injured. In college, I was 23-4. My freshman year, just broke into the national rankings. I beat a couple guys in national rankings. Sawyer Lepla, who was ranked 4th. There was a guy from Gannon, I forget his name, who was ranked number 2 at 184. I beat him on the buzzer 3-1. You know, I was, like I said, I was right there. But the injuries always plagued me. The difference with MMA is if you get injured, you can push your fight back. And another thing I did when I was younger, I wasn't as intelligent, I wasn't as educated as I am now on
Conditioning, training, and
no, not so much that, just the recovery and taking a rest when you need it. Whenever I would have an ache or a pain or, you know, an injury that I knew was coming on, I'd just push through it, you know? I'd be like, all right, I'm a tough guy, F this, I'm pushing through this, you know? I'm just being soft. Now I know better, you know what I mean? So now it's like, all right, if I'm feeling like my knee's messed up, I'm gonna take a day or 2 off my lower back, a day or 2 off instead of training through it and then having to take 2 weeks off, 2 months off, you know, get a surgery, whatever. Even when I first started fighting through my amateur career, I was still like kind of with that wrestling mentality that I had through college, and I had 2 surgeries on my knee then too. So, you know, it's changed big time now. I take care of my, better care of my body. I'm always doing cryo, ice bath, sauna, getting massage therapy done, going to a chiropractor over with Jared Hoffman over here in Boynton Beach. You know, doing a hyperbaric oxygen chamber down at Gentera, getting IVs done. You know, I'm doing everything I possibly can, stretching, rolling out, cupping, you know, resting, taking off days whenever I need it. You know, I have technology that helps you read your recovery, your HRV, your resting heart rate, your respiratory rate, all things that are, you know, indicative
Yep.
of your recovery and when you need to rest. You know, if your HRV's low and your resting heart rate's high based off your benchmarks, then it's obvious you need to rest, you know? So I'll take a rest on those days, or maybe just take it lighter, where like I'm usually doing a high strain day. I have a 8 sleep mattress that reads all this stuff. The Whoop reads this stuff. The Oura Ring reads all this stuff. So that's another thing we didn't have back then. We didn't have that technology we do now. So it's been a great help for me now too.
It has been a great help, and you see how you've been able to just deal with every fight you're going into, and do that. And a couple more questions, wrap this up. Thank you so much for the time. I'm curious too about your background growing up. Where did you grow up? Where was high school for you? You mentioned Youngstown State. What was that journey like for you, just navigating through all that? Because now you're in South Florida.
Yeah, I grew up in Newcastle, Pennsylvania. It's a little bit of a rundown town. There's nice areas, but I grew up in the rundown part. I didn't grow up in a very fortunate family. You know, we were pretty poor. There was, you know, I can go into the details of things, but you know, there was a lot of stuff that even the very like low class people had that we didn't. You know, and
it was tough upbringing.
Yeah,
it was tough.
And even through college, like I was working a full-time job and working security on the weekends, and still training and still trying to make honor roll and the dean's list and everything else.
Did you accomplish those?
Yes, I did accomplish that, and I was still
Awesome.
working full-time, just getting 3-4 hours of sleep, running my body in the ground, just making sure I could train to get to my goals, which is where I'm at now. My goal is to be a world champ, so we're still on my way actually. But
where was high school for you?
high school was Newcastle High School until 11th grade, and then I went to Laurel High School my junior and senior year. And then college, I went to Seton Hill and Youngstown. And when I was at Youngstown, after I stopped playing football, wasn't on a scholarship or anything anymore. And I had to work, like I said, 40 hours a week. And then I was doing security on the weekends and still going to school and still training 2 to 3 times a day. So I was getting 4 hours of sleep, you know. And most of the time, there were sometimes where I had to choose between paying my rent and eating and paying for gas money to get to school and get to my training, you know, because I was driving all over the place back there too. All my gyms were separate. We don't have a gym like this down here, you know what I mean? And
one for conditioning, one for lifting, one for wrestling
boxing,
training, boxing training.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. So and
Here it's everything.
My car was constantly broken down. You know, I had a rust bucket. You know, I couldn't afford nice things. I was wearing the same clothes all the time. But you know, it was all worth it to get to where I am right now. So.
What kind of car you have now?
I have a Camaro now. So I drive a Camaro now. I was driving a rusted out Chevy Trailblazer that constantly broke down the gas lines. You know, the muffler. You know, bad spare tires. Just bad tires. Period. The rims busting. Rusted out doors, things going wrong in the engine constantly, you know, transmission blowing. It was just one thing after the next. I can never get ahead, but you know, if you stick with it, you know, sooner or later, you know, you're gonna break into, you know, the realm of where you want to be.
It's such inspiring too when you see anybody that has tough upbringing, financial upbringing, and then being able to do well, succeed in all. That, when you look back at those times, mentally it must have made you a tougher person, which is helping you here now.
Oh yeah, for sure. And you know, with not just with the upbringing, but with sports careers and injuries, and you know, me falling short on so many things growing up. One, because of upbringings. Two, because I didn't have certain things to help me. Instead of using that, you know, as like having the victim mentality, I used it for motivation to get where I am. And now whenever, like, you know, if I'm having a rough day, or you know, I need some extra motivation, I don't need to reach out to exterior you know, motivators or sources. You know, I can look back on my own memories and, you know, find everything from within, and that keeps me going. So
what's it like now with family and getting to see you fight on YouTube, Bellator, YouTube, Showtime, apps, TV, whatever it is? What is it like now to have that with family and friends, being able to see you fight?
Yeah, well, my sisters and my brother watch and stuff, but I haven't talked to my mom in 5-6 years. We didn't have a good relationship growing up, and that's my choice, you know. But my dad passed away also in 2016, so sometimes it's a little heartbreaking that he doesn't get to see where I'm at. But
maybe he is.
Yeah. But besides that, I got plenty of friends. My girlfriend, her family, which is like family. all get to watch. They come to my fights, you know, always supporting, always reaching out. And a lot of time I don't get to reach back out to those people because I'm getting overwhelmed with so many text messages, so many messages and stuff on social media. But I'm truly grateful for everybody that's helped me, you know, from friends and the family that I do have to, you know, sponsors, to my coaches, to this gym, everything, you know, everybody has helped me along the way.
Coaching wise, we have to mention that, but too, also, who are you working with? Are you working with, well, you mentioned Coach Mako, but are you working with King Mo at all, or Steve Bruno, or Mike Brown? Who are some of the people, you know, coaching wise?
They all help me, but my main coaches are Anderson Franca, he's my striking coach, and Mike Brown, he's my head coach, and they help me the most. And also Mako helps me a lot too. I get some periodic work in here with Gabriel, who's a boxing coach, and Artem, who's also another kickboxing coach. Pahumpa, I see him a couple times during the week as well, but he's not one of my main coaches. But like I said, they all help me. You know what I mean? So, you know,
vast resources. Yeah,
you know, anytime you need some help from somebody, you have an avenue or a channel to reach out to, and whether it's jiu-jitsu, wrestling, the MMA overall, kickboxing, boxing, I mean, you have it down here. So, you know, and they're always willing to help, you know, as long as you're willing to help yourself. I know there's a lot of people that have left the gym, and I hear them complaining, saying that they don't get any, the coaches don't focus on them, or they don't get any help or whatever, and that's mainly because, you know, maybe they show up once a week, maybe they show up twice a week, maybe when they're here they dog it, you know, and not to, you know, talk crap on anybody, but, you know, you kind of get what you put out. You know, these coaches, they have families, they have full-time schedules that they're working here at the gym. They're not going to put time into somebody that's not putting time in themselves. They're not going to invest, because it's an investment to them. You know what I mean? They want to see that you grow these relationships and these friendships and everything with the coaches, and they help you, and they give you so much of their time that they could be giving to other fighters. And if you're not investing in yourself, they're not going to invest in you. And I mean, that's just the flat out truth. And I mean, you can't blame anybody but yourself.
Hercules. How did you get the name Hercules?
So I started boxing in Youngstown whenever I was going to Youngstown State, and when I was going down to downtown boxing gym, right over the hill from the university. The first time I was there, I was hitting pads with Coach Sam Caldrone, professional boxer in the area, and you know, I remember everybody was going about their business in the gym, you know, hitting the bag, doing their normal workouts, the double end bag, the heavy bag, the aqua bag, speed bag, everything, and I was just in the ring hitting pads. And about halfway through the round, or as soon as that round was over, it started the next round, I look around and everybody's surrounding the ring just watching me hit mitts, and like everybody starts, like, you know, making comments or cracking jokes about like how hard I'm hitting and how the sound. Yeah. And one of the, between that and between the sparring and everything, one of the guys there named Ron, who was one of Muhammad Ali's former sparring partners, yeah, he's in his 70s now, and he's always down there staying in shape, just hitting the bag, cracking jokes, great guy to be around, you know, and he's always giving people nicknames, and he was just like, that's Herc, that's Hercules, that's Herc, we're going to call him Herc, you know, and it kind of just stuck. Everybody down there kept calling me it, and, you know, I think it fits, you know, both my fighting style, my physique, you know, how I train.
How you train.
Everything. And I mean, the best part about it all is I'm big into Greek and Roman mythology, you know, and I think it fit perfect, and it wasn't one of those times where I gave myself my own nickname like a lot of these fighters do, you know, which I think's, you know, pretty stupid, but, you know.
So that's their thing. Yeah, that's their thing.
Yeah, but that's how I got it, and awesome way to get it, and because of who it's from, and you know, just
Ron Lyle?
Huh?
Does that ring a bell to you? Ron Lyle? I'm trying to think of his last name, but
actually,
maybe wrong.
I never
That's
knew
all right.
his last name.
Yeah,
just
yeah.
Known by Ron,
Yeah.
you know, that's what everybody called him.
He had several, so could have been. But yeah, that's a cool story with that. And now we'll end this and transition to something else that it was funny watching All Elite Wrestling on Wednesday night, AEW Dynamite, and I see Dan Lambert, Mr. American Top Team himself there, and all of a sudden I see Jorge Masvidal, Junior Dos Santos, Paige Van Zant, Austin Vanderberg, Arlovsky, and I see Dalton Rosta as well. What was it like getting the call from Mr. Dan Lambert to go with him for Team AT&T on AEW?
I mean, it was awesome, man. I loved WWE growing up, and the crazy part about it is whenever somebody sent me a picture of a yearbook from like second or third grade, and it was like in the back of the yearbook, it's like, what do you want to be whenever you grow up? And everybody's like doctor, nurse, baseball player,
firefighter.
Yeah, like all these, and besides baseball player, they were all like normal careers, And then you get down to me, and it's WWE wrestler, professional wrestler. So that was something I was huge into as a kid. I played all the video games. I always watched the shows. I had the action figures, everything. And I still watch it some now. And, AEW is a rising company as well in professional wrestling. And, just to be a part of that, it was awesome. And then be a part of it with the people that I was, like you said, former champ Andre Arlovsky, former champ Junior Dos Santos, Jorge Masvidal, Paige Van Zandt, Austin Vanderford, Dan Lambert, the owner of the gym, and to be in front of all those fans there with those people, most of those people didn't know who I was, Some of them do now, some of them still don't. A lot of them still don't, but I plan on, earning that along the way. And, besides that, just the experience of being there, the energy in the arena was amazing.
That's unbelievable. Yeah. You walk out, and that crowd just goes nuts,
yeah.
Whether they're cheering or booing.
It's different than MMA. I've been in front of packed crowds in MMA, even for my own fights. At my last fight in Phoenix in January, and my second fight in Connecticut, the Mohegan Sun. And it's just different. It's not the same. There's everybody chanting their walkout songs, and it's crazy. So.
Do you put much thought into I just thought it's in your entrance music when you come out for a fight, or is that something you don't really worry about?
No, I definitely so before my fights, I always, like when I'm listening to music on the way to the gym or just when I'm driving around, if I have to go to the store, I'm always like clicking, whenever I start getting close to my fight, I'm always clicking on songs that I'm like, all right, this could be a walkout song. And I'm listening to them and I'm like thinking like, all right, am I getting a good vibe to this? Like I'm picturing myself walking out and I'm like, is this the one? And then if it's not, I try the next one, I try another one, and I just go through them. I've kept the same song for the past 3 fights or so, but I think it's time to change. I might not. I still get a good feeling from the song that I walk out to now, new level, but I feel like it's always good to change it up, keep it fresh for yourself.
Did you ever think of using one of the pro wrestling theme musics?
I thought about it for sure. I thought about using Stone Cold's. I thought about using John Cena's.
That's Stone Cold though, with the glass shattering and all. That's
Israel
cool.
Adesanya just used the Undertaker.
Did you see that?
Yeah,
that was amazing. He came out dressed like the Undertaker with the urn.
Yeah.
He had Vince McMahon, Stephanie McMahon, Triple H.
Hat wasn't big enough though.
Then the hat needed to be much bigger and all to cover more of his head. He had all 3 of them that were there watching the fight. They actually were there because they had a pay-per-view that night earlier, and then they were able to make it over there across the street, across the road to watch them. So he's doing this whole, that was amazing, Undertaker. And people knew, once they heard the gong, everybody was sort of like,
yeah, no, I thought so too. Like 5 seconds into it, I'm like, this is the Undertaker song. There's no way. And then like, I thought maybe it was like going to be like some remix that like somebody made for him, or it was starting out like this, and then it was going to something else, and then it was just like, he just kept going. And I'm like, no, this is the Undertaker song. And then he walked out with the hat on and the
urn with his opponent's name on it.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, yeah, it's pretty awesome. But then his fight was pretty boring.
Yes, I know.
Like, from the shit talk.
The entrance was better. The entrance was better.
From the shit talk about anime and everything, from the comparisons he's making to himself to anime, and the claims he's making during the press conference, and talking about how he puts his opponents in the Matrix and all this other stuff, and then on top of that with the entrance, all to perform. He's a phenomenal fighter. You can't take anything away from him. But if you're going to put on that type of entrance and that type of performance at the presser, you got to put on a better performance during your fight. You know what I mean? So.
Well, and then I'll wrap it up with this. So, is pro wrestling something down the road, too, you want to maybe pursue then?
I would do it. Yes, 100%.
Who were you mentioned Rock. Was Rock and Cena, were they some of your favorites? Who were some of your favorites?
John Cena, Brock Lesnar, Goldberg, Stone Cold, Randy Orton, Dave Bautista.
The Animal.
Mark Henry. I got to meet Mark Henry recently. I got to meet Big Show.
Oh, cool.
I liked all
at the AEW events?
Yeah, I liked all those guys. So, but I would say my favorites probably Stone Cold and John Cena and Dave Bautista and Brock Lesnar.
Randy Orton has a good entrance music too.
Yeah.
That entrance music is pretty cool with him there. Yeah, that's pretty cool too.
Yeah.
Gosh, it's so good. Dalton, thank you so much. Ever since the AEW, I've been wanting to talk to you and interview you just because of your fighting, your MMA, but also the pro wrestling and all like that. I just think it's so cool. It's so much fun. It's so different, two different entertainments, the MMA. The MMA, you're trying to beat the guy up and win, and the pro wrestling, you're trying to physically go at it but make it look good and not hurt the other guy's stuff. So it's a different dynamic. And when we have training here. I mean, Paige Van Zant, Valerie Laredo. Valerie just signed with WWE, and they were training with Gangrel. Yeah, well, she's going to be with the NXT. Paige has been doing some AEW stuff, but they were training out here in Pompano with Gangrel, who was a WWE alum, and he was with Edge and Christian and has done so much. So they actually have a pro wrestling training school here, and then obviously Orlando is where WWE's PC is.
That's my girlfriend's up there too. She just signed on NXT as well.
That's so cool. That is so cool with that.
She was going over to the one in Boca, getting ready to go up there. But yeah, it's pretty cool.
Have you been up to the PC then, or not yet?
I'm not, but I plan on it. Maybe after this fight. But yeah, it's cool, man.
Is that hard navigating schedules too? Because now she's up there in Orlando, I guess, training up there, and you're here. So
I see her on the weekends, but during the week I'm just training down here, you know.
And she's training.
Yeah, so, and it's a full-time job, so. Yeah, I mean, it's cool, man, and if I ever get the opportunity to do AEW or anything like that again, I'm gonna, you know. It was fun. I got to watch, like, Chris Jericho growing up and play with him on the I remember SmackDown versus Raw 2005, the Walls of Jericho and everything, and I got to beat him up, you know. And
you guys are y'all are kicking and punching him.
A couple of those shots were real, and he got a little bit mad about it, and the last time I was on, he kind of, like, told me, like, you know, ease up a little bit, where before he told me, he said, make it look real. He's like, if you have to hit me, and I didn't, he didn't like it. And so the last time he's like, all right, ease up a little bit, and I did, and the next thing you know, it looked fake, and I'm like, So,
that is so, but you learn as you go. That is so great. All right, so Dalton, thank you so much. Big fight coming up, Bellator 283, Friday, July 22nd, from Emerald Queen Casino in Tacoma, Washington. Battling undefeateds, American top team, Hercules, Dalton Rosta. Thank you so much.